Good evening and welcome. This is The Chase, Zimbabwe's premier current affairs program. And of course, this is ZTN Prime. The election season, some may say, has officially begun as the nation braces for the upcoming 23rd of August harmonized elections to choose their presidential, parliamentary and local authorities' preferred candidates into office. Yesterday, we experienced a start to the electoral process, galvanizing all interested parties and aspiring voters. The country witnessed a nomination court procedure, which was the last call to parties and the electoral body, ZEC, to tie up loose ends in candidate nomination. To those who follow proceedings here on ZTN Prime, we managed to give you over 6 hours of broadcasting covering the electoral process and the nomination court. And by end of day yesterday, we had names and numbers of people who were duly nominated, and most reports described it as a flawless procedure. Now, I do say we had names and numbers. However, none of those names and numbers are official until the electoral body, Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, actually publicly and says the names and the candidates who were accepted. However, I must say, talking to all candidates and parties, all democratic processes were in place. However, like anything, nothing can ever go without fault, and there were issues of contention. Today here on The Chase, we hear directly from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission as we continue ZTN Prime's election series. And later on in our first segment, in an exclusive on ZTN Prime, the Vice Chairman of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission will announce the official candidates, the candidates who have been accepted for the presidential election. Our topic tonight, 2023 election, poll managers map final lap. Join me and my guest tonight live on The Chase. Welcome back to The Chase, Zimbabwe's premier current affairs program. This is ZTN Prime, broadcasting to you from our studios in Harare, Zimbabwe. Good evening, I'm Andy Hodges. To discuss 2023 election poll managers map final lap, I'm joined by Ambassador Rodney Kiwa. He's Zimbabwe Electoral Commission Deputy Chairperson. Ambassador, welcome to The Chase.
Thank you very much.
Now, you know that through our online, we were supposed to be joined today by Zimbabwe's Electoral Commission's Chief Elections Officer. However, you can appreciate his busy schedule at this time, as the nomination court only closed yesterday at 4 p.m. However, I believe the ZEC Deputy Chairperson is just the man to articulate some of the issues we want raised. To our viewers watching ZTN Prime, please join our discussion via our Facebook page, Zim Papers TV Network, or via our Twitter handle at ZTN Prime. We would like to hear from you. Now, all views expressed on The Chase are those of our guests and do not reflect the views of Zim Papers 1980 Limited or, in fact, ZTN Prime. As I said, don't hold on, because later on in this segment, the Vice Chairperson of ZEC, Ambassador Kiwa, will, for the first time live on air, announce the official candidates who are accepted in the nomination court to stand for the President of Zimbabwe, the highest office in the land. Ambassador, on the 11th of June, our sister newspaper, the Sunday Mail, reported that the 30th of June is the date that ZEC will publish the final list of all candidates contesting in the harmonized general election, of course set for August the 23rd. So let's just clarify that. When are the full nomination court results expected to be made available? How are they going to be made available? And is that still the planned date, 30th of June?
Thank you very much. That is still the planned date, but it will depend on what happens between now and the 30th. What do I mean by that? As you know, as we are all aware, we had the nomination court sitting yesterday, and then today is the inspection day. And so should there be any queries, any challenges to those candidates who were successfully nominated yesterday, then there is a requirement that the nomination court cannot review its own. So,
of course,
right?
Of course.
So what is going to happen is that the aggrieved candidates, or those that will be challenging the nomination of the candidates, will have to go to the Electoral Court.
Okay.
Right. This should have happened in the next 4 days. Now, assuming that, and we don't know how long that is going to cost
All right,
us.
so let's get this though. Let's say I went as a candidate and
Yes.
something happened and I want to dispute. How am I going to know that I have to dispute? How do I find that out? And then, of course, as you said, could be a political party saying that candidate wasn't on our ticket. Why is he there? These sort of things normally happen in electoral processes. Explain this a bit further.
They lodge, be it the public, be it the political party, be it a candidate himself or herself, they will have to take up their case with the Electoral Court. Right? The Electoral Court is the one that then which will decide or adjudicate on the matter. At ZEC, we don't. They can inform us, but by way of information...
I mean, you have to be impartial.
Yeah.
Simple as
yes,
that.
Yes, yes. Otherwise, the way to go is to approach the Electoral Court.
Okay.
So the expectation is that in the next 4 days, if there are any individuals or political parties who would want to challenge the outcome of the nomination process, that's why we had today an inspection day, then they have to approach the Electoral Court.
Okay, so
now,
today you had inspection, so parties and candidates could come and inspect.
And as well as the public.
As well as the public.
Yes.
And if from that inspection, if they had any issues to raise, that's when they lodge those complaints or issues that goes to the Electoral Court for
Correct.
review. So
Correct.
that could delay the 30th of June. But all things being
but
equal,
otherwise,
30th of June is your
otherwise,
D-Day.
by 30th of June, if everything's in order, we don't have to wait until the 30th of June.
Of course.
Yes.
Because people want to know, don't
Yes,
they? They want
correct,
to know who are the
correct, yeah,
candidates. The
correct.
candidates themselves
Correct.
want to know
Yes.
who they are, and they can start campaigning
Correct,
in earnest.
yes. So that's our aim.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, I will add that today's edition of The Chase is also in partnership with the Election Resource Center, ERC. And they were also our guests yesterday, I'm sure, on the 6-hour marathon we did covering the nomination courts. Now, here's a question, and it's something I'd like you to clear up. It's all about the voters' role and access, because in prior elections, numerous times we've had the complaint that the voters' role was not accessible to parties and not accessible to candidates. But I did hear a report, and in fact, your very own commission stated that successful candidates will receive the voters' role in electronic form. Can you clarify that? Is that true? And if it is true, when will they actually receive it?
That is true in the sense that, well, I can't speak in terms of what is involved in ICT. I'm not good at that.
Okay.
But we will be issuing the voters' roll probably in CD form.
Or flash
or flash. But how exactly...
But every
electronic
candidate every successful candidate will receive it without fail.
Correct.
Obviously, if you're a councillor, you receive it for your ward, MPs
Exactly.
for your constituency,
Yeah,
president, of course, will get
correct.
the total vote as
Correct,
well.
yes.
But that is, you can assure all candidates, all political parties, that their candidates will receive the voters' roll. The question is when.
As early as once if we've no issues with the Electoral Court, it should be as early as next week.
Okay, excellent. So that will remove one of the issues brought up in previous elections by political parties.
They're entitled to have that.
Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, there have been reports that we've received here at ZTN Prime from a number of commentators of double candidates fielded by political parties in certain constituencies or wards or whatever, causing confusion. As ZEC, can you confirm this or not? And if true, what was the process about that? If one party issued, if suddenly two candidates came from the same party, what was the actual process? Did you hear reports about it?
Yes. That is actually taken place in places, Harare, Bulawayo, Masvingo, just to name a few places that I've actually seen double candidates. But let me clarify to our viewers that in the first place, it's not illegal. As long as those candidates fulfill the requirements of meeting the requirements of getting nominated as a candidate for political party X, the ZEC has no problem with that.
You have no problem, okay, as long as the nomination papers are in order, signed by the right people,
correct.
The right whatever,
everything,
you
yes.
can have two candidates because that isn't really up to you. Is that
Yes,
what you're saying?
exactly.
So you can't disqualify one or the other?
No.
I suppose, because who would you disqualify, would you? I mean, you couldn't pick, could you?
Exactly.
So as long as all the paperwork, particularly if the party signed the signature, they did
everything. If they've met all the requirements to succeed, for that nomination to succeed, then we go ahead.
Did you have instances whereby you did accept two candidates from a political party? Is there any? Would you know that?
Yes, I've seen just that offhand.
But yes, it happened.
Yes, it's there.
Okay.
It's there.
Would you have any numbers of which political party or in particular had such a number of double candidates? Have you got any of that data available yet?
Triple C had the most from the short survey that I had when I looked at the list of candidates in Bulawayo, Harare especially, Masvingo and so forth. But I've not had the opportunity to look at all the...
Yes. Okay, and the other parties seem to be, that wasn't as bad. I mean, as you said, from your brief perusal of the data, it seemed that Triple C was the main one that had possible double candidates.
Yeah, that's what I observed, yes.
Okay, all right. Now, ZEC did announce or gazetted through, of course, through the legal means, the how can I put the improved number of council seats to take into account the 30% quota for women. Now, I want to talk about it a little bit, Ambassador, because of course it's important that quotas for women, youth, and people with disabilities, all constitutional issues, these should be at least tried to be effectively implemented. Could you explain, give us clarity on these quotas and how ZEC was handling that, particularly this issue as well of local authorities, that 30% women's quota?
Yeah, no, we did implement. In fact, if you recall, we also published a statutory instrument explaining to our voters how we calculate for each local authority the women's quota. So now, what it means, if I can express it in terms of figures, we had, in terms of the previous setup, 1,970 posts for councillors.
Right.
Now, if you then have 30% of that being women, and you add onto the...
You added on top of the 1,900.
Yes.
Oh,
so it will be roughly 1,970 plus about 602.
Roughly.
Yeah. You can be,
so about 2.6, without getting into definite numbers.
Exactly.
So that means that councils will have, local authorities will have more councillors this time around than ever before because of that quota.
That quota, that's correct.
And how was it done? Because one of the concerns that comes up, of course, is that you can have a quota system, but you still have the women who still are standing on the quota, maybe vying against male counterparts, and they lose. So at the final count, you don't have the quota. How would you ensure that 30% are women?
Exactly. For all the political parties who lodged their candidates and so forth, the expectation was, particularly under the proportional representation system, the party list system, was that they would use the zebra system. Women, male, women, male, women, male, and each local authority, it varies from the number of eligible councillors, varies from one local authority to another. So you'll find that, for instance, if local authority A had 10 members, 10 councillors, 30% of 10 is what? 3? So you
have to be women.
Yes, you have to.
But it doesn't necessarily mean they'll win.
Not necessarily so.
So you may find still a council full of men.
Yeah. But also, if parties don't follow the party list system, they are automatically disqualified. They will not be counted.
Okay. So in other words,
they must fulfill the conditions of the party list.
Because this is a constitutional requirement. This isn't like, correct. Please do it. It's a constitutional.
It's a constitutional. They have to do it.
So okay, so yesterday, did parties follow the zebra system? Did they all, particularly the major, in fact, all the parties I put on, did they follow this quota and put the right number of women and so forth?
I can safely say all.
Yeah, well, that is
from what I've seen. Yes, from what I've seen.
What about youth and people and persons with disabilities? Because that also is a contention that there was an idea. I know youth in the Constitutional Amendment number 2. I think that was one of the issues.
Yes, exactly. That has been followed.
That's also been followed.
That has been
so we're going to see more women, more youth, more people with disabilities
exactly.
in the candidates list to stand for election. I'm not saying they'll win, of course, but they will be there on the ballot.
Correct.
Thank you. There have been reports by some sections and commentators at the magistrate court, some aspiring candidates face challenges. In fact, the word I heard from a media colleague was shambolic, due to their forms having various anomalies in their paperwork and the things they needed to present. So how far true is these reports? And further, what were the major issues that ZEC saw in the nomination forms that was, persistently happening all across the country when candidates submitted? Yes,
well, I'm disappointed people can speak like that, but if you recall, we encouraged all potential candidates to approach ZEC offices, obtain the forms, pre-lodge them before yesterday, so that we could assist with making sure that they are properly completed, and that all the supporting documents are there, and so that we could have a smooth nomination process.
But some didn't.
Yeah. Some did, and I'm happy to say the majority did. The majority did. This is why we at ZEC are very happy with the way the process went yesterday. Of course, there were glitches here and there.
We'll get to that later on, because I do want to, with Les, I think that should be its own question in terms of what you saw and what could be improved, what was done well. But one thing that I did note yesterday was the submission electronically. That was a first, was it not? Was that the first time ZEC had done something like that, where candidates could electronically submit? I think particularly presidential, I know ZANU-PF and Triple C did that, I think, on Saturday. Talk to us about that.
I don't know the
matrix that is now in place. Though. You can electronically submit your documentation.
Correct.
Okay, and then your election agent will follow up to make sure.
Yes.
So exactly. That's a first. That wasn't done before?
At the best of my knowledge,
it's a first. Yeah? Which is it makes the whole process a bit more seamless and transparent. I would assume.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Yes. Ambassador, So let's talk about the well, as I said, this isn't about ZEC, this is about the candidates themselves. What did you note were the major issues? Because what we don't want is for candidates to, after the fact, state ZEC refused me, ZEC didn't allow me to put my documentation in. But do you transparently say that this is what happened, this is why we didn't accept, or is that it's not your problem as ZEC?
No, we would explain, and in fact on the final form, we have to state the reason why a candidate did not succeed at the end of it.
Okay.
To say Andy submitted his form, but the reason for his application failing the nomination was because maybe
didn't have pictures.
He didn't have the correct birth certificate or ID, or he was in the wrong ward or wrong constituency. Yeah, but those failures were far and apart. But the major one that I saw, just from looking at the few that I sampled that failed the nomination, was particularly failure, the inability to pay.
Money, basically. The nomination fee was the big issue. So the
yes,
documentation was fine, but now it came to the payment, and suddenly they didn't pay. But then that takes me to our next question, Ambassador, because we noted today that ZEC released a statement this afternoon at 3:04 p.m. stating that aspiring candidates had up to 4 p.m. today to pay nomination fees. So, of course, the question that popped into my mind immediately is 3:04 p.m., giving candidates until 4 p.m., 56 minutes? What is that about? Explain.
Yeah, I was checking with our chief elections officer, and I think there was a case whereby a candidate submitted, or candidates may have submitted all their paperwork, which was all in order, but there were challenges in terms of payment, either because our point of sale machines had challenges. I mean, you can imagine.
I'm with you.
Yeah, you can imagine somebody in Sanyati or in Mbire there, maybe the connection was not correct. So we cannot penalize the candidate.
Because it wasn't their fault.
It wasn't their fault.
So when you say up to, okay, but still, I mean, when you say up to 4 p.m., let's clarify two things. When you say up to 4 p.m., that was for everybody, because you couldn't obviously it had to be everybody.
Anybody who was affected by that
must pay by 4. Yeah. But why only 56 minutes warning if you issue the statement at 3:04 and the 4 o'clock? This is what I'm getting from my researchers. When did you issue the...
Because the thing is, the expectation was that by today, payment should have been reflected in our books, that payment has gone through, or but just reminding them that payment should have been.
Yeah, but surely you're opening up yourself to a candidate saying that you only gave me 56 minutes. I didn't know about
No. This was brought to their attention. I mean, look. Yes.
Yesterday.
The challenges.
Okay.
Yeah, the challenges.
And you did say to them, you have until tomorrow. Did you tell them that directly?
No, I would assume that
you assume that was done.
Yeah,
no, because it's very important. I mean, Ambassador, you know how I've been asking you questions. I'm talking about transparency, people understanding the process, because that is what defeats a conflict.
Yeah, correct.
Agreed. All right. Now, this is an interesting question. A party called, I'll name, they're named Changu Chimuti Chapinda, or CCCC, successfully filed papers for its candidate. But the question was, what does the Electoral Act say about competing political parties with similar symbols, abbreviations, and even names?
Yeah, there are a list of symbols that are not acceptable, and obviously our nomination courts will not accept those symbols. But I want to remind our public, viewing public, that at ZEC we don't register political parties. We are informed that Andy Hodges and his significant other have formed
a new party.
A new party, and they will just do that. Don't forget, so we have no control.
So you can't reject a party based on a name?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Who can? It's when they registered.
If we had in place, when they register, that symbol cannot be the same like the other one. Okay. But otherwise, other than that,
once it's registered, your hands are tied.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So therefore, this party will stand as CCCC effectively, and there's nothing that ZEC can say or do about it.
Because we don't register political parties.
Very good.
Yeah. Now, we don't have a register of political parties.
Right. But what about, I mean, this issue of complaints being raised about, particularly from Triple C, saying that this is a deliberate ploy to split the vote? I mean, again, is that your concern or not?
Of course, anything that affects negatively our electoral process is of concern to us. But there are certain things that we cannot do anything about. For instance, like the name of that political party, and if it meets. This one is you are telling me it's a quadruple C.
Yeah.
Then that violation is there. There is no way we could deny that person to register. But I can assure you, we don't play politics at ZEC. We do not play politics. Otherwise, what kind of a referee are we going to be?
Because one thing, I mean, I had the Election Resource Center, who are our partners today, on the chase, and I asked them yesterday, because one of the major issues that needed to be assured is that everyone, not particularly Zimbabweans, because that's, of course, the first port of call, and everybody else, observers, whether they be friends or enemies, if I can call them that, frenemies, accept that our elections are free and fair. Okay, I think that was the key when I was talking to the Election Resource Center yesterday. And so it's very critical that these issues are explained so that at the end of the whole process, come the 24th of August or whenever ZEC announces the results, people can say, yes, we won, no, we didn't, or this is the process of dispute.
Agreed.
You agree on that, sir?
Yes, I do.
And ZEC's position is that you are going to ensure that you're going to be doing this without any form of bias, without any form of favoring any particular party. You will be completely down the middle and accept everything from everyone if they're genuine complaints.
Agreed. That is exactly what we are there for. That is exactly what we are working towards. That is exactly what we hope to achieve. And of course, for us to be able to do that, we need the cooperation, support and understanding of everyone. Because ZEC is the referee, but for us to be able to come up with a free and fair election, a credible one, we need each and every one of us must play their part positively. Yes.
I will ask you later on in the show about one aspect of a free and fair election, which is now the campaigning period, but I will talk about that. But now, as I announced at the beginning of The Chase, Zimbabwe's premier current affairs program this evening, now we are going to ask the Deputy Chairperson of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, Ambassador Kiwa, to announce for the first time live here on ZTN Prime the list of accepted nominated, the list of candidates that are now officially will be standing for their highest office in Zimbabwe. That, of course, is the President of the Republic of our beautiful country. Sir, the floor is yours. Who are the candidates that have been accepted and admitted and will be contesting the election as for President?
Oh, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to inform the public as to who the successful candidates, for presidential candidates are. Of course, I'll start with the head of state, His Excellency President Mnangagwa, successfully launched his candidature, and
representing ZANU-PF.
Representing ZANU-PF, yes, thank you. And then, of course, I must mention that there were 21 presidential candidates in all. And out of these, 11 were successful,
okay,
right? And 10 were rejected for various reasons. So, like I said, President E.D. Mnangagwa for ZANU-PF, Mr. Busha Joseph Makamba for Free Zim Congress, Mr. Nelson Chamisa of Triple C, Mr. Chikohora Trust, Piwa of ZCPD. Apologies, I don't know exactly the
ZCPD,
yes. Mr. Kasia Muru Blessing of ZIPP, Mr. Sevia Kasukuere is an independent, Mr. Maduku Lovemore of NCA, Mr. Mbaiwa Wilbert Archibald of NPC, Mr. Mzorewa Gunya Henry of the UNC, Mr. Douglas Togarase Monzora of MDC, and Mr. Wilson Harry Peter of DOP. Those were the successful candidates.
So those are the candidates,
Yes,
11 candidates
yes,
who
yes.
will be contesting for Zimbabwe's presidency on August the 23rd.
Correct.
You heard it here first on ZTN Prime. Ambassador, thank you for that announcement. So you now know officially the presidential candidates will be standing on August the 23rd. Of course, the list of other names of all the candidates for members of parliament and for local authorities, as the ambassador said, will be out on the 30th of June, or at least that is the plan, as long as there's no dispute or there's huge disputes up to that process.
Correct.
And of course, the voters' roll, as you said, will be then given to each aspiring candidate for whatever position they stand for, hopefully by as early as next week.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Right, it's time for us to take a breather. That was an excellent announcement there by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. As I said, it's time to take a breather. Our discussion, 2023 election, poll managers map final lap. Of course, this production is brought to you in partnership with the Election Resource Center, ERC. You're watching The Chase, Zimbabwe's premier current affairs program. Don't go away. The Chase will be right back.
Following the story.
What is happening on Zimbabwe's roads? How did we get here? Through red robots. Basically break every road rule under the sun.
So nini ndakadhakwa nembanje dzangu ndikaenda kuchipatara ndaunorapwa ka handibatsiri asi ndikazvishaya teteka aiwa.
Deeper analysis.
So, are you ready and prepared if violence rears up?
Jacob Mafume's party has taken hostage of them.
The videos are there.
Do not be drawn into the debate of discussing issues that are sub judice. He said when he grows up, he would like to be like me.
Oh.
Just to put you in there.
Good evening and welcome to the program. Just to break the ice, what is ZINEF's mandate?
To promote media freedom.
And money matters.
Coming up, Tanganda Limited is set to bring online a macadamia processing plant.
Now, Zimbabwe Stock Exchange listed company Seedco Limited has resolved to suspend indefinitely its proposal.
Every week on ZTN Prime.
Welcome back. You're watching The Chase, Zimbabwe's premier current affairs program. This is ZTN Prime, broadcasting to you from our studios in Harare, Zimbabwe. This edition of The Chase is brought to you in partnership with the Election Resource Center, ERC. Good evening. I'm Andy Hodges. Our topic tonight, 2023 election. Poll managers map final lap. And of course, I'm joined this evening by Ambassador Rodney Kiwa. He's Zimbabwe Electoral Commission Deputy Chairperson. Now, as I said before the break, and we're going to repeat this, in a scoop for ZTN Prime and for the country. For the first time anywhere in Zimbabwe, tonight we hear from the Deputy Chairperson of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission the official list of candidates who on August the 23rd will be contesting for the highest office in the land, Zimbabwe's president. Ambassador, if you could please repeat the list and what you said prior to the breather.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you very much. I started off with the head of state, President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, His Excellency Emmerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa of ZANU-PF. Then we have Mr. Busha Joseph Makamba of Free Zim Congress. We have Mr. Chamisa Nelson of Triple C. We have Mr. Chikohora Trust Tapiwa of ZCPD. Mr. Kasia Muru Blessing of ZIPP. Mr. Kasukuwere Savior, an independent. Mr. Maduku Lavmo of NCA. Mr. Mbaiwa Wilbert Archibald of NPC, Mr. Mzorewa Gwinyai Henry of the UNC, Mr. Monzora Douglas Togarase of MDC, and Mr. Wilson Harry Peter of DOP.
21 candidates submitted their documentation. 11 were successful. Is that
11
correct?
were successful.
All right. So there you've heard it first here on ZTN Prime, the official list from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission of the candidates who will be contesting for the presidency on August the 23rd. Ambassador, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Now, Ambassador, they are aggrieved parties that are saying that names were fraudulently added to their candidate lists and even signatures forged. Did you encounter or get reports of such occurrences around the country from the nomination courts?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of.
Right.
If anything, the main challenge, like I said at the beginning,
money, payment.
It was payment.
But you are going to release. I'm asking a question. You are going to release a report on the whole process and any of these anomalies that you notice, so the Zimbabwean population can see, and it's very transparent. I think that's important. Are you going to do that, as ZEC?
We will. We will inform the public as to
what happened, the numbers, etc. So people can see with their own eyes the process.
Yeah, we summarize, what took place, what we did well, and what were the challenges.
Okay.
But overall, we were quite happy with the way the process, it was as smooth as it could be, possibly humanly possible.
It's possible, yeah. Some commentators argue, and this is an important issue, because we only have, less than June, July, August, 60 days, I believe, to the election day or thereabouts. And they say that ZEC has not left enough time for it to voter education programs, and particularly to cover the entire country, all the 10 provinces at all the different areas, to educate voters properly. They state that ZEC is behind in this process, and this may lead to a possible disenfranchising of voters. What is your comment to that?
We are doing everything possible to make sure that we reach as many people as possible in terms of voter education and so forth. But I would want to remind our public that, we had delays. First, because of the pandemic, which cost us in terms of us doing the registration, and then There was also delay in the publication of the delimitation report, which of course informs the rest of the process in terms of.
So do you admit that you are behind?
Yes, we are. We are behind.
And what are you doing about it?
We've mobilized the resources that we require in terms of human capital as much as we can. And I always believe that you can never do enough. There is always room to do better than what you did. I don't think we can get to a point whereby I could tell people of Zimbabwe to say, I have done enough. Voter education training has no end state.
It should continue continuously, shouldn't it?
It's a continuous
I
thing.
mean, one of the major issues, of course, is that voters may still not know which polling stations that they should go to. I think that could be a huge concern coming election day.
We are required by the law to publish all the polling stations or polling areas 21 days before polling day, as well as on the polling day.
Okay.
So be assured that no one will be lost in terms of where they should exercise their vote.
Now, of course, you did announce the presidential candidates, the 11 successful candidates who ZEC has accepted their nomination papers for and will be proceeding to contest the election. Now, of the others, again, you mentioned the money. Was that, again, the primary issue, the nomination fee? Was that the primary issue of why their documentation was not accepted? Can you give us a bit of an update on that?
No, I'm still as to how many were really faced the challenges. But depending on what level you are talking about, the
president. Let's talk president, because the rest we're still waiting for the report.
Yeah, president, but I don't think there were many. Probably 2 or 3. If I'm
so about money, the rest was just the documentation wasn't in order.
Documentation, other criteria that the
which is in the Electoral Act. Exactly. This isn't something that ZEC created. This is there on paper. Exactly. You're just following the law, if I can say that.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Now. Now, I want to get back to the nomination cause. One political leader on her tweet, she argued that her proof of payment was rejected. Another stated that the Zimbabwe dollar amount, which was 138 million Zimbabwe dollars, the equivalent of 20,000 United States dollars, was so large that you couldn't swipe it because the bank limit is, I think, 1.4 million. That created a few challenges. Can you tell us if this happened? And of course, more importantly, did you anticipate this? Because it's not just the amount, it's also the exchange rate moving.
Yeah. No. Thank you for that. And I really feel for that particular candidate that should have cost her, he or she, the nomination. But we also had not anticipated that these are some of the challenges that we were going to face in terms of the payment process, particularly when it came to
Zimbabwe dollars.
Zimbabwean dollars, yes.
Because 138 million, no bank will allow you to swipe that. It's above the set limit by the central bank.
Yes. Yeah, in fact.
So assuming that candidate faced challenges with that amount.
And that's precisely what informed the decision to say, right, can you work with your bank? Because once the transaction has been confirmed, or let's say whatever that candidate could have done yesterday or today to make sure if all the paperwork was in order, all other requirements were in order, and what was standing in the way was payment. This is why I would like to believe
I see. So that candidate, so you're saying that candidate who couldn't swipe the 138 million, the money was probably there in the account because of the bank limit. I'm just making a hypothetical here.
Yes.
Could they go today and pay payment before 4? Would that have been accepted? And they would then add to that list?
But I'm informed that there was nothing that was paid.
Okay. All right. So as of 4 p.m. today, whoever mentioned about payment or swiping...
When I left my office to come here, no payment had gone through, not just for that. I think
for the rest.
For the 1 or 2.
Right. So the only candidates that will be standing officially for president are the 11, and of course we will ask you to read them out in a moment, but those are the official candidates. That's it. If I can say that door is now closed.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Now, you know, one thing that came across very strongly when we were following, particularly the presidential candidate's nomination, was the issue about the $20,000 United States nomination fee. I mean, the comments ranged from it not being fair, and in fact, the female candidate even went so far as to say that the fees were put in place to disenfranchise women from participating in the polls. I mean, what is your comment about this $20,000 United States or even any of the other nomination fees?
Yes, the 20,000 is a fact. For us, it's prescribed by the law, so the law is the law. And if my only comment that I could possibly make is to say, if Zimbabweans are unhappy with that amount, the incoming parliament could discuss, could exercise its mind and revisit that issue. So this is what I can say.
Okay, so let me be blunt then. The $20,000 United States fee is set by the Parliament of Zimbabwe. It's then prescribed to the nomination courts. ZEC has no input, argument about that number. It's got nothing to do with you. Is this what you're saying?
For us, the law is the law.
Okay.
We are expected to implement the law.
Now, earlier, you did start talking about this, and the question was, that's why I said let's wait so we can really cover this properly. Your view, was the nomination court process free and fair, without intimidation? And those candidates who had the correct nomination forms are not hindered in any way in submitting their forms. Did you receive any complaints concerning the nomination court process? And I'm talking here about all 10 provinces and all the centres that were receiving nominations, which are thousands and thousands.
No, it was as smooth as possible, and we're actually quite happy. And I must seize this opportunity to thank all the ZEC staff, or all the seconded staff who played a very, very magnificent role in making sure this was a success. I'm quite happy.
I did hear a comment from the candidate from ZANU-PF, of course, His Excellency Dr. Idi Mnangagwa. He said, and I liked it, I must be honest, because it kind of resonated, and not just because he's the president, but because it was a fact. It appeared as if Zimbabwe's democracy is maturing. I kind of like that. Did you get that sense through the country?
I was actually very motivated, very elated, very happy that he made that statement. And not only that, even the other presidential candidates who came in person, and so that reinforces the belief in that the process is
it's a start, isn't it? It's a start of the process to show free. Now, of course, we must continue that process to ensure the free and fairness, the Electoral Act is carried out, all the rules in it are set, and so forth. And I will ask you now...
Because they could have simply sent their agents and so forth, but the fact that they turned up in person, for me, I really must...
Now, I want to just clarify another thing. If no candidate would pay a nomination fee until their paperwork was accepted.
Correct.
In other words, you couldn't pay and then you were rejected and then you lose the money.
Payment is the last
After everything is accepted, then you pay.
Then you pay.
Okay, so therefore there is no money sitting in your coffers that doesn't belong to you because the candidate isn't sitting. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Thank you. Now, let's talk about the role of third parties, because this is obviously something that's going to possibly start happening more and more now we're in the campaigning process. The third parties interfering in the election process. Some would call it, commentators call it overt interference in the election process. Can you clarify briefly that issue of third parties now getting involved, going around, trying to get voters and so forth?
No, I mean, third parties have no place whatsoever, in my view. And in fact, I'm not clear about exactly what you mean by third parties, but
various civic organizations or groupings of people that are going around to voters, sort of trying to educate them outside of
those
that aren't accepted or being registered with you.
Yeah, those that are registered with us and have been cleared with us, they are legitimate. They can go about because we are on the same page with regard to the content.
So if anybody wants to do that, they should come to ZEC, register properly, and if they meet the requirements, you happily give them that authority.
But we unfortunately
it's closed.
It's closed. Yes.
Okay. So now from now onwards, only those who have come to you prior and have done otherwise, no one else can.
That's correct.
Okay. Now I want to ask you, you know, we now, I can almost say that we're starting the process, even though, of course, the president announced it 31st of May. The fact is now nominations are out. We now know the presidential candidates, which I'll ask you to repeat just now. I want to talk about ZEC's message to Zimbabwean about a non-violent election. Particularly in light of yesterday's peaceful nominations across the country. I didn't hear of one case, and we were on air 6 hours, of one case of any kind of violence happening, really at the nomination courts at all. What are you doing now, from now onwards, to ensure pre, during, and post-election political violence does not occur?
First of all, I must say that the president, actually the president, did us a great favor by making that appeal to say, please, no violence, pre, during, and after elections. I think that message resonates with the Zimbabweans. So the expectations is that all the participants in the electoral process. And when I say all the participants, I mean each and every Zimbabwean has got a role to play. What do I mean by that? If you don't spread hate speech, if you don't spread falsehoods, if you accept that, politically we see things different, people are entitled to their own political views.
They can vote for who they want.
Yeah, they can vote for who they want, and so forth and so on. All the political parties, religious groups. We have got also some Chapter 12 commissions, like the NPRC, the Gender Commission, the Human Rights Commission.
They're all keeping an eagle eye on this election.
All this, if all of us play our part, I can assure you, we will deliver.
Right. And I mean, that then brings into the perception or the fear of security forces. And I mean, I know we had Assistant Commissioner Paul Nyati here on The Chase a couple of weeks ago. That inherent fear or bias of security forces, or the way that they're acting before, during, and after the election. Is there any form of code of conduct or a form of monitoring the behavior of security services that ZEC can point out and say, that is too harsh, you shouldn't have done that? How does that process work?
No, the police operate under a different act, which we have no say whatsoever.
They have their own committee. I know they set up an election.
On how they conduct their police work.
Right.
But the good thing is that they are we cooperate and collaborate in a lot of ways. I'll give you an example. Just last week, we had the multi-party liaison committee at national level, whereby during the second meeting that we had of the multi-party liaison committee, one political party wanted to some explanations from the police in relation as to how they determine who gets the authority to hold a rally and so forth. And our ZRP was kind enough to send a very senior officer who sat with us and explained how this is done. And I'm happy to report that it was to the satisfaction of those political parties there present.
So the police are now intricately involved in talking to parties, talking to the electorate, explaining exactly how they can apply for to hold a rally, what the things they're allowed to do, and so forth. Because, of course, we don't want to see this issue of bias where police are being accused of stopping political parties from rallying, as has been happening in the past. I think the idea here is transparency and fairness. I think that's what we must see as a voting
engagement. You know,
yes.
the engagement must not be one way. The engagement must be both ways. We don't want to wait for an accident to happen.
Yes.
Yeah, we must anticipate. How do you do that? You engage and,
you counter before it happens. You get in front of it. Rather than
so
wait
that engagement between the public, the political parties, the candidates, with the police and so forth is very, very important. And they are willing to engage in that respect, and I have no doubt that there's that clarity.
You're watching The Chase, Zimbabwe's premier current affairs program. Our discussion tonight with the ZEC Vice Chairperson, Ambassador Kiwa, is 2023 elections, poll managers map final lap. Of course, this broadcast is brought to you in partnership with the Election Resource Center, ERC. Now, before I finalize my questions, Ambassador, I suppose I have to ask you again, because some people may not be watching. As I said, an exclusive here on ZTN Prime. The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission Vice Chairperson has announced and will announce again the official list of candidates that will be contesting Zimbabwe's presidency on August the 23rd, 2023. Ambassador, if I may ask you to repeat those names again, if you do not mind.
Okay. For ZANU-PF, His Excellency President E.D. Mnangagwa. For Free Zim Congress, Mr. Busha Joseph Makamba. For Triple C, Mr. Chamisa Nelson. For ZCPD, Mr. Chikohora Trust Tapiwa. For ZIPP, Mr. Kasia Muru Blessing. Standing as an independent, Mr. Kasukuwere Sevia. For NCA, Mr. Maduku Lovemore. For NPC, Mr. Mbaiwa Wilbert Archibald. For UANC, Mr. Mzorewa Gwinyai Henry. For MDC, Mr. Monzora Douglas Togarasei. And last but not least, Mr. Wilson Harry Peter for DOP.
So there you have it, an exclusive here on ZTN Prime, the official announcement by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission Vice Chairperson, Ambassador Kiwa, on the list of candidates. 11 candidates will be contesting for the President of Zimbabwe on August the 23rd, 2023. You heard it here first. Ambassador, we just have a few more minutes, and I really just have just a couple more questions. First of all, administration-wise, let me call it that. I'm talking here about polling agents, the ink, the paper, the tents, the vehicles, all the stuff that people don't understand are required for an election. Are they in place? Where are we when we stand when it comes to that?
Oh, that's a very good question. That infrastructure is in place. The ballot paper is in place. The ink is in place. The vehicles, they are in place. The tents, they are in place. In fact, some of them, they are the very tents that we were using in some of these places to house people. So we are there. Now, of course, voter education and training is a continuous thing.
And you've admitted that you are a little bit behind on voter education, but you're going to be throwing resources at it.
And like I also mentioned, Andy, is that I personally don't believe that we can ever get to a point whereby we can say we are 100% done as far as voter education is concerned. There is no end state to voter education.
Ambassador, as I said, I've just got 2 minutes left, but the first question, access to state media, it's something that's always been complained about, particularly by the opposition. How can you assure the nation that this time around it will be done as per the law, which is free access, free fairly to all political parties?
That's correct. We have got the Media Monitoring Commission in place, and we encourage, particularly our public broadcaster, the ZBC, to give access, and there is no reason whatsoever why all the participating candidates cannot or should not.
But there also is ways that they can complain if it doesn't happen.
Of course, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
to that media commission.
Yes, they come to the media commission and tell us why, and so forth. And this is why we even compel the public broadcasters and so forth to inform us of all the programs, schedules, so that we're able to monitor, to say we're expecting X political party to present its program. So say, why didn't it happen if it didn't happen?
Right.
And so forth and so on. Because there must be equity. There must be
free and fair. Ambassador, we are coming to the end, but I'd like to give you just a minute. I have that to give you a final word to both voters and aspiring candidates. Of course, is the poll manager, you ready? And also, what would you like to say concerning the conduct of parties and candidates as campaigning really starts in earnest?
Yes, of course. Campaigning has started in earnest. One political party is actually launching its manifesto on Saturday, and what is happening is that if we all abide to all candidates, as you might be aware, that all candidates had to sign up to the code of conduct for their nomination.
And they've all signed it.
They've all signed. Please, let's abide by the expectations from the code of conduct. And to the ordinary voters, to the ordinary Zimbabweans, please, let's be peaceful. This is our country. There's no point in antagonizing or hurting the next person, because after 23rd of August, we are going to continue to be neighbors. We're going to continue to be. How are you going to relate if you indulge in violence? So please, let's preach peace, 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 and more peace.
We've come to the end of the chase this evening. This is Zimbabwe's premier current affairs program. I'd like to thank my guest, Ambassador Rodney Kiwa, Zimbabwe Electoral Commission Deputy Chairperson. Ambassador, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andy.
On the chase. Make sure to tune into next week's episode of The Chase live here on ZTN Prime every Thursday at 2100 hours Central African time. So please, we will be continuing our election series. As I said today, you heard it. As an exclusive, the list of official candidates from the ZEC Vice Chair, the candidates who will be standing as nominees for the presidential vote, for your presidential vote on the 23rd of August 2023. And a final word from me, #No to Violence. I'm Andy Hodges. Goodbye, good night, and please, you all be safe.